What's wrong about you? The whole world. What's wrong about you? They're coming for you.
I'm not the one that needs to watch their back.
This doesn't have to end in a fight, Tony. You just started a war. Stay down. Final warning. I could do this all day.
Well, hello everyone out there in podcast land. This is the Front Row Movie Reviews podcast, the podcast for people who actually like movies. And we're here today to discuss a movie that I think we actually liked.
Yes!
Absolutely.
Of course
we're going to talk
did. I hated it.
about Captain America Civil War.
Kevin was the first one.
we got a huge group in this podcast. It's going to be incredible. So let's start going around the room. First of all, my name is Craig McFarland. I'm the associate editor-in-chief, and I'm very happy to be here. And the man, the myth, the legend, our editor-in-chief is here with us today, too.
That is right. I'm Jeremy Geckner. I've seen this movie 4 times, and I am ready to talk some Captain America Civil War.
Awesome. Also joining us, our flashbacks guy.
Yeah,
I do flashbacks.
He hosts flashbacks.
Scott McFarland.
Hello.
We are in the lovely abode of one Mr. Kevin the Man Kulovic.
Let's go Blues!
Let's go Blues!
Kevin's right now watching the Blues game on Jeremy's tablet. Thank you, Internet.
Yeah,
And
rocks.
joining us again, he was on our full disclosure for Batman vs. Superman. We've got Josh Meisenbacher.
Hello.
Remind me, Josh, your stance on Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
Oh my gosh, she's fucking hot.
And there goes the other stuff.
That's okay. That's worthy.
Explicit.
That is worthy for this one.
That is worthy for this one.
We'll have Nate here joining us in just a little bit, but also a very special guest to the Front Row Movie Reviews. Someone that has helped us out immensely. We talk about his show all the time because we love it. We have Jeremy Bailey from Lincoln's Legends podcast.
Call this movie Bucky with the good hair.
So Jeremy, talk to us about Lincoln's Legends. Let's get the lowdown on what's going on.
We got the Blues game going on in the background.
That's right.
Honestly, I don't want to talk anymore about that, not because I'm over it, but I'm just really, really excited in all the work that you guys have been doing.
I think you don't understand this whole plug thing.
No, I don't think you understand the humble brag. So, no, honestly, things are going great. I'm in production for, I don't want to call it season 2, I want to call it chapter 2. I also have 2 other shows in development right now. And I don't know, it's just going to be exciting. I'm really happy to be a part of the community, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn
That's
right,
awesome. Well,
damn right.
we're looking forward to that feed getting updated again here. You've been on a little bit of a hiatus because, congratulations, you got married.
Man got hitched.
It was really awesome. I bitched and moaned the whole way, not down the aisle, but to the bank to take the money out.
Yep.
And then I regretted every single complaint that I did when I saw the pictures because it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. We actually ended up losing a photographer like 2 months into it. And then we had to find another one. We thought it was the worst thing in the world. Well, actually, it was the greatest thing in the world because that photographer held our creative vision, and she went so far out of her way. She even made a teaser trailer for our wedding.
Well, what's the business? Let's promote it a little
It's
bit.
a Sure Shot out of Missouri.
Nice. That's awesome.
We got married down south. So yeah, no, it was really cool.
That's fantastic.
Very, very nice.
We're really happy to have you. We're really happy to have you.
You guys knew
And
this
we've
was gonna
got,
happen.
we've
I just
got
wanna say,
Nate that just showed up here. So
Yeah.
I see that.
Scott and I are also watching the Cubs game, and we
The sport that counts.
we're fans, but we're also adults. So
Right now, there's a runner in first and second. Cubs.
Alrighty, hey, somebody else just walked in.
I did, yeah.
hi, Nate.
Hi, my phone is garbage.
Hey, that's okay.
But he's
That's
here.
okay.
No, it's not.
So we're going to talk about Civil War. And before we do, I wanted to get some things out of the way. If you've been a fan of our podcast for a while now, you know that we try to be diverse with this podcast. We try to bring you a bunch of different movies. And if you're new to this podcast, you probably think we're a podcast solely devoted to Captain America Civil War.
We kind of are.
If you just got to understand that we were extremely excited about this movie. It's obviously one of the biggest movies we've been able to cover as a podcast, and we're happy to be able to do this full disclosure. But then we've got some great content coming for you very shortly. We're going to be having a flashback on Mighty Ducks.
Yes.
Brandon and Scott just did a classics on the Steve McQueen wonderful movie, The Great Escape. So we've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe for you that's not necessarily superhero related, but it is going to be awesome.
we do other films besides superhero films, not nearly as often, because they're the biggest films there is nowadays. I mean,
I can promise you most of the flashbacks for the rest of the summer won't be superhero.
we should definitely. I love how we already did a classic, or at least a flashback on Superman 2, though. So like the original Superman. So we're never getting away from the superheroes. But yeah, exciting stuff coming.
Absolutely. And yeah, go
I
ahead.
was going to interject. I guess I'm really bad at teasing, but I got a chance to sit down with a photographer from Springfield, Illinois, that will be in the next installment of the show, and he actually was on set for Batman vs. Superman.
That's awesome. That's great.
So, yeah.
Very cool. So
Couple
that'll be
months in the works. It'll be like maybe 2 months away, but
well, that's great. We'll
Unless you
definitely
listen to this a year from now, then it's already there.
there you go.
Yeah.
we'll make sure to plug it when he comes out. So let us know for sure.
All related. Go ahead.
That's great. So last couple of things, I wanted to say a big thank you to Damien at Killing Comics,
Yes.
because they are officially our sponsor for this
right, our
show. It's
first one.
fantastic. So they have such a great shop on Wabash. You can go check it out. I was there today. You've got everything in that store you could
I'm gonna
ever
drop
want.
so much money in
from
that store.
so many DVDs. They've got great toys. They've got comics. They've got games. They've got board games, video games, anything that you want, you can find it there. So thank you so much to Damien for the support, and to all you new listeners that stopped by Killins on Free Comic Book Day and got our flyer. We're really happy to have you.
Yes.
Last plug I will make, and then we will finally get into this. Later on this month, we're happy to announce we're going to be doing a collaboration with After the Hype.
Yes.
They are a podcast based out of California, and they are going to be crossing over with us for a flashback, and I'll let Scott announce what it's going to be.
California!
Nope.
That's not it at all.
We will do the wizard one day, though, I swear. No one got the wizard right.
I love the wizard.
Oh, the wizard's great.
It's just like the power glove I might have caught.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
Well, there is a kind of Michael Bay movie coming out. I don't think he's a director again, but he's a producer
of it.
whatever. It's Michael Bay. Is coming out with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the movie that looks like it's pulled straight out of the old 80s and 90s cartoon, which I'm not sure what to think about that. But we're going to go back to one of the most successful independent movies of all time.
That's right.
And that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990.
Yeah, so be looking for that. We're going to have a couple of the After the Hype guys on that flashback episode, and then myself and maybe a couple others from this podcast will be appearing on their After the Hype of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. So,
Where they don't use any weapons.
Ninja, rap, ninja.
well, I love to know.
Go ninja, go!
And now with all those plugs out of the way,
Yes, it was
we
Vanilla Ice.
are excited to dig into Captain America Civil War, the full disclosure. So first thing we want to do is just talk about our overall impressions. And we've got a lot of people around this table, so we will
And
try
some
to
people
be...
in the den.
We've got some people in the den watching the Blues game. We will try to be concise with this a bit, but let's go ahead and start with Scott, move our way around the table. Overall impressions, Captain America Civil War.
Captain America has been and always will be my favorite superhero character, so I came in with some high hopes. I was also expecting this to be Avengers 2.5, which also gave me more high hopes, and it knocked down everything I was hoping for. It was an excellent movie. We'll get into it, but I think it will be in my top 3 Marvel movies moving forward. I've seen it twice now. Need to see it a couple more times to figure that out. I think Avengers is still going to be #1 for me, but overall, Russo brothers knocked it out of the park, and I'm looking so forward to Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2.
Yes.
I'm extremely biased. I didn't think that I would be, but Winter Soldier, I mean, like, I love the franchise as it is. I love the fact that I guess you guys were talking on your previous podcast ranking and all that, and I don't think that Iron Man got enough credit. I was like, that's my
I believe that was number 5 of the overall rankings.
Right.
Yeah,
The good Iron Man was.
Yes.
Yeah, number 1. Yeah, that would be just because I love the origin stories. I love the way they portrayed it. I think it was a great time for it to come out.
I agree.
And then I fell in love with Captain America, and seeing Captain America like going into Dark Knight. I can't say, or sorry, I felt Winter Soldier was like Dark Knight in that franchise.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
I can see that.
And I hate to say that all the other Avengers movies had too many Avengers in it, just too much shit going on, and it was almost like video game based to me. Like when it opened, and then it was almost like Spider-Man 3, like too many villains, too many characters, too much shit going on. But this one, I got to see the last show. I stayed up. I mean, I didn't go to bed until like 3:30 in the morning, and then I went to work at 8, and it was totally worth it. So this was my jam.
Awesome.
So go ahead.
Nice, Nate.
Yeah, it's not my top 3. It's the 4th. It's the 4th out of top 3. I agree with you, Jeremy. It was for me. It was a little too broad. There was just a little too much going on. We'll get into that later. All in all, it was a good movie. I think they tried to set up points and they didn't follow through because there was just too damn much going on, and they didn't have the time. I mean, at 2:35, 2:40, something like that. The runtime is. They were pushing it, and I think they tried to cover too many broad spectrums. But on the whole, the action was the best movie action I've ever seen.
Oh, yes.
It's exactly what you want in a movie. But I think some of the heart of it is gone because they didn't have time to flesh it out. They tried, and I just don't think it was a swing and a double because it hit, but it didn't connect as well as it could have.
Okay.
All right, that's
Awesome.
fine.
Jeremy.
I'm, like I said, I've seen this movie 4 times now, so obviously I hate it. But like the thing about this is
AMC loves you.
you know what? Yeah, AMC really loves me. I need to get that Stubbs card.
I'm gonna stop bringing
No, I do not.
I'm gonna stop bringing Chipotle to the theater.
No joke, people brought Chipotle to the first Avengers to save seats. That's right.
For you.
This movie is. Fine, I'll be the person that says it. This movie did perfectly what Batman v Superman tried to do. And
I didn't say first.
No, you did not,
I didn't
Scott.
say first.
I'm the guy at this table, well, along with Nate, who actually liked Batman v Superman. But this movie plays with that dramatic side of the superhero equation so well. And the thing that really stood out to me every time I've watched it, man, Robert Downey Jr. is at the top of his game in this movie. And as much as this is a Captain America movie, God, I think the most impressive performance is Robert Downey Jr. because of all the heavy dramatic lifting he has to do in this movie. I mean, just every scene that he has to be in, there's something that Tony Stark is once again having to go through and having to put so much pressure on himself to try and once again save the world in any way that he can that leads to destructive terms. And of course, as you said, Nate, this is some of the most impressive movie action sequences I've ever seen. I mean, we're going to talk about it in length, I'm sure, but that airport sequence is it's one of the biggest joyous moments of my life. I mean, it might sound dramatic to say that, but I mean, like, every single frame of that action sequence is just top-notch and amazing. And I'll tell you this much, too, that for all the stuff that they had to balance by bringing in Black Panther and Spider-Man, those two are done so freaking well in this movie that it makes me so excited to see the Black Panther movie and the Spider-Man standalone movie. Both of them knocked it out of the park. We'll get to that later, but I put this literally just under the Avengers by 0.2 points if I had to. This is definitely 1A, 1B for me. I think it's definitely the most mature film Marvel's ever made.
Awesome. Josh, overall impressions, Captain America Civil War.
God, Scarlett Johansson's hot as fuck. She's so fucking hot.
Very, very detailed.
Kevin's overall impressions, Captain America Civil War.
I would have to say my opinions are between the Jeremy and Nate. And it wasn't my favorite by any means. They were trying to do too much, and at times I thought the action was too comedic for the Civil War aspect when they're supposed to be going at each other. I felt like the emotions could have been a little bit no, you guys are seriously, I mean, sure, there's a time for jokes and everything, but then also, like Jeremy said, versus the BVS, where it was focused solely on the battle, and we didn't have this even though it was a very small outside enemy that they were going against, unlike this big doomsday type thing. It was a small enemy Exactly. And so overall, I would like roughly where everybody say. I say this is my third favorite Marvel movie, but it's still very enjoyable, and I've seen it twice already, and I enjoyed it both times.
You got to see it with one of our friends' sons, who's what, 12 years old.
12 years old.
So give us his impression of this movie.
Like every movie I go see with him, he thinks every movie is the greatest movie ever made, and I would have to say he thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's geared toward that type of stuff, that type of age group too. I mean, I just called us all 12-year-olds pretty much. But,
maturity level.
No, it works well for that age group, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, he was chatting me. I'm like, just watch the dang movie, kid, and then it'll be explained here in about 2 minutes.
See, that's good, because I would have thought it would have been a little too weighty and too dramatic for the younger audience.
It's the action though. The action sequences were so good. That's what drew him in. But like somebody else, I don't know who was talking about it, but the depth that Robert Downey Jr. gets brings the contrast with the seriousness, the comedic aspect. It was a very well done film.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I can't add too much to everything that everybody just said. I would just say that this, to me, struck all the right notes that it had to. I don't think it was too cluttered with superheroes. I thought it was handled well because, we already knew, 80% of these heroes going into it, and so there didn't need to be too much introduction. That's the nice part about the Marvel Cinematic Universe being around for a decade. So we had so much built up. We know these characters. We've lived with these characters. Robert Downey Jr. has been Iron Man for at least 8 years. So it's just been
his 7th film as Iron Man, not counting the Incredible Hulk.
He's about to surpass Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Yeah.
So
it's absolutely incredible. So loved the movie, but I did have some scenes. I had some reservations, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I think I want to move on to favorite scenes. So instead of going around the table necessarily, I just want someone to throw out what was your favorite scene in this movie. I'll start. Let's just talk about that airport scene.
Yeah, let's just get this out of the way. This is going to be the longest.
And, I don't know that we mentioned this, but full disclosure is always very spoiler heavy. This is the last time we'll mention that. But when Paul Rudd turns into Giant Man,
oh my God,
that was epic!
Amazing,
absolutely Star Wars movie?
God, that pissed me off. It's kind of old.
Now, the only thing I have against that line,
he's on the young side.
The only thing I have against Tom Holland's line as Spider-Man there is that I feel like Peter Parker would know what Empire Strikes Back is.
Don't you think he was trolling, though?
Maybe that's what he was doing.
But here's the thing, though. He's only like 15, 16, so he was born after 9/11.
Yeah.
When's the last time you talked to a 15?
They don't.
But here, no, but to just jump off of that, Spider-Man's action sequences,
were great.
Just amazing. The way he was fighting and stuff.
Initially, when I saw the trailer, I was like, that costume is dog shit. Like, I could have drew that with a pen and pencil. And I'm not an artist at all. Apparently, I'm not good with words either. But I finally understood, not alpha, beta, but pretty close to the suit's inception. Like, he just gave it to Peter and everything, that being Iron Man, and I was complaining about it until I finally made the meta connection of his suit is supposed to be, I don't call it juvenile, but his suit's definitely supposed to be a little, not fully advanced, but I lost my shit when I saw that he was working on his computer and the web came out of his hand, not his actual skin,
yeah, it's
but
just
his
cartridge,
cartridge,
the actual,
I was like, we're good.
But I mean, the way what I always loved and what I was always missing with the Tobey Maguire and less so with Andrew Garfield, but more, hipster dancing. No, but the thing I was always missing, Spider-Man in the comics, he is literally a smartass, almost to the point of douchebagness. He is so quippy and he's always throwing insults. And the very first time when he's chasing down Falcon and Bucky, and he's just yells out, "You have the right to remain silent." It's so great. And then the one that really got me, when Bucky throws this giant panel at him, he says, "Oh crap," moves out of the way, and then the very next second, "Hey, I think you lost this." Just throws it right back at him. I was like, this is Spider-Man. This is exactly what Spider-Man is supposed to be.
And see, this is actually why I actually liked Amazing Spider-Man, because they kind of got that with the Garfield version. And I'm so happy that they've moved full on Spider-Man being a jackass, and I love it.
It's been
so
a
much.
really good evolution since Seabiscuit.
We won't talk about
Seabiscuit.
No, we won't
No,
talk about.
I call Tobey Maguire Seabiscuit for a very specific reason. He left the Spider-Man franchise saying that he didn't want to be called Spider-Man the rest of his life. His next film, major film, was Seabiscuit.
His last
Great film, by the way.
That is what I
Good
will.
film,
That's
yes.
what I will call him for the rest
Great
of his life. Is Seabiscuit to label him.
We
as
won't
that.
discuss this flaming dog shit that is Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Well, plus, let's not forget that when Ant-Man goes into Giant Man, like, Spider-Man gets the laugh out. So he gets, like, the laugh out loud moment when Giant Man goes up and all of a sudden Spider-Man says, "Holy shit." Like, Marvel throws that in there just to get the one curse word they can get.
there were
in
actually several shits in this movie.
Yeah, but it's just like, I don't know, like, the way that everything works
said
with
goddamn,
Spider-Man is just
too.
amazing.
Yeah, there was a
Don't
goddamn
you ever
in
get
there.
out of your goddamn ego or something.
The only one you can't do for R is more than one
Two,
fuck.
I thought it was 2 fucks.
Yeah, two
Well,
fucks you
it
get
was-
R.
No, unless you're the Martian. The
Oh,
Martian got
unless
away
you're
with
the
two
Martian.
somehow. But
Ridley Scott.
But so Jeremy mentioned this. This was a really cool Easter egg. So we know that Joe and Anthony Russo, they really started their kind of their career with directing Arrested
And
Development
writing, yeah.
and writing Arrested Development.
really
And so
I don't
what
know if
did
everybody caught this.
Jeremy knocks me on the shoulder and just goes, "Dude, that's the Bluth.
Yeah.
That's the Bluth
That's the
airport
stair-
taxi.
Yeah, the
That's
stair car is in that airport scene.
Spoiler alert, you fucked that one up for me in the last interview because you listened to HBO.
Yeah.
Shit. Fucking, not even there, but you're like, not even there. He's like, no. Kevin's talking on HBO, this is shit, blah, blah. I listened to HBO the second I turned you off. I was like, boom. I was like, love you front row guys, but I think Kevin was
They didn't
there.
spoil anything in their HBO.
No.
They didn't.
No.
They
No,
said,
I'm saying, so I went
they
to
said
the
there was a
movie.
car in a superhero movie.
I went to the movie looking for it because of your recommendation.
There you go.
That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem.
Oh.
So it was great to see that, like, that little Easter egg and that throwback. I mean, that whole airport scene, though, was incredible because I love it when they're running towards each other and both sides are going, "Are we really doing this?
Yeah,
Is this
like it
really
starts off so
happening?"
slow. They're just walking, and then they start jogging, and
They're not
Spider-Man
stopping.
has the word. They're not stopping. Neither are we. And then full out run. Like it's like even there they don't want to do this and everything. But you know the thing that really kills me about the scene, it's like it's literally mixing and matching. It's like Joe and Anthony Russo were like, okay, who do we want to fight each other now? Like, you know, Ant-Man starts off fighting Black Widow. Then he goes to Giant Man and he's holding War Machine like right there, and like he goes and jumps into Iron Man's suit. It's like they keep mixing and matching who's fighting who, and of course, God, Spider-Man fighting Captain America was such a great little visual there. Like, you know, because you get that great, like, oh, where are you from? Queens, huh? Brooklyn. Like, oh
See,
my
and that's
God,
the
it
one that
made
was
me
ruined
smile
for me
so
by
much.
by Fat Man on Batman. Kevin Smith ruined that one for me because he
Yeah.
talked about that
Yeah.
beforehand.
Stop plugging his show, I'm
But,
sorry.
but yeah, no, I mean, that was such a cool moment because here they are in Germany fighting, and he can notice the Queen's accent on this kid, which
Yeah.
this is like one of the first Spider-Man that actually
Has that, yeah.
a New York accent.
And
It's
he's
really
still British.
I don't know. It wasn't strong enough for me. There were times where I felt like it was kind of forced, which obviously it is.
Sure.
A Brit
Yeah.
doing a Brooks accent. Because like when he said, "Hey, Captain America, big fan," I was like, It's like, ooh, that sounded
It's a
crunchy.
lot more natural in this first scene.
Jeremy, do you think that the fighting was basically what's the dancing where you trade hands all the time? Not merry-go-round.
Do-si-do.
but- There you go. Yeah. Do you think that they were? I'm not good with words. You think they were do-si-do because they didn't really want to fight each other?
Yes.
So maybe.
Well, one of the lines is that
Like
you're
a
holding
merry-go-round.
back, or what
Yeah,
was it?
because
You're-
that
Yeah,
was
no,
where-
Scarlet Witch says you're holding back because she
Yeah,
was
when
pissed
she
at him for it.
when
Oh,
Black Widow and
pulling your punches.
Hawkeye
Just made
are
it a little
there, you
better.
know, like
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch throws her into a side of a plane. Is like you're pulling your punches,
Yeah.
and Cliff kind of like, okay, yeah, I got you. And it's
People
like,
are gonna die here.
but I do agree, like, but also like, there's just so many cool visuals there. Like the Black Panther Bucky fight of that was great. The Black Panther
yeah.
Captain America fight section of that was
I
great.
thought they
like,
nailed it so. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
like, and you want to talk about this, like, we'll get into this a little later, I guess, but like Black Panther's fighting style in this movie is exactly what I thought it would be.
Did you see the original Avengers, the animated, I don't know, it was Lionsgate? It was
Yeah.
like 15
The
years
Ultimate
ago
Avengers?
maybe?
Yeah.
Wait, do you mean like the very first Black Panther animated
Yes,
one? Yeah.
yes. That was like, yes! This is awesome. It's exactly how it's supposed to be.
And I mean, like, I don't know if we could do. No, we can't do that yet. But like calling out characters. But
so we're back on favorite scene.
Yes,
we're on favorite
scene.
Get back on track.
But here's the other thing I want to say about the airport scene. The beginning of it, when it's only Captain America out there and everybody's starting to surround him. Downey, again, in that scene, you totally buy he does not want to do this. Like, he totally believes that he's trying to do the right thing by bringing Cap and Bucky in, that he is trying to save everything. If you remember the line he says, I'm trying to keep you from tearing the Avengers apart. And it's like, this is his family now that we know that Pepper's gone. It's like, there's just so much emotionality being brought through there. Every look on his face is just, don't make me do this, Steve.
Right.
And it's just, it's just so amazing.
There was a wonderful visual in that scene. After they had the initial fight, and you could tell that there was a lull, like an eye of the storm, Vision comes across and marks, he draws a line in the ground, and it's just him showing up. But there's the visual and the identification. That's a line. If you cross this, it's done.
Well, and that's another thing I liked about this, too, is when they came up with the teams made sense where they went, but they also were divided well. You had two of the overpowered people, Vision,
Two gods, yeah.
Yes,
Scarlet
the two
Witch
gods.
being on the opposite sides. You had mostly the same amount of flyers. You had mostly the same amount of ground combat folks.
Ambiguity, there were two of them.
Yeah.
Carter and Black Widow.
Did everybody like Ant-Man's new costume too? It was slightly different. Like the helmet was a little bit more
I don't like that the helmet's one piece now. I liked it when it kind of came apart.
Maybe they tried to go
I did
more
too,
towards
because when he goes
Yellow
down
Jacket in the comic.
Yeah, I think
Because I don't think he had the antennas yet, did he?
That one I think Ant-Man I think he did, but well, also Ant-Man had one of my favorite lines of this airport scene where we first get him and he takes the shield back. Your shield, Captain America. Like it's just the way
He's just milking it for all it's
Oh,
worth.
it's so great. Plus, like he throws the gas truck. He's like, "Oh, I thought that was a water truck." Like,
Yeah, that was great.
But like
Using Paul Rudd.
like Ant-Man, like he fits in so seamlessly.
Right.
Like that's just like what's so great.
And
like,
it's not supposed to, and that's what's amazing
Exactly.
about it. He looks like he walked off the set of Wet Hot American Summer.
Technically, he probably did because they just made the Netflix one.
yeah,
So.
exactly.
Well, and the whole thing is they plucked him out of San Francisco. He needed coffee because he was having jet lag.
Yeah, in Germany, which is great. He's like, where are we?
What time zone is this?
If we want to talk about other favorite scenes,
Well, real quick, I just want to hit on one
Yeah,
point
I have
because I do too, but I have one
I
that I,
have
want
a
to hit
million.
on. Is the reason why I think the Russo brothers now are my favorite directors for a movie like this is because this has been done so many times where it's failed. So I already joked about Amazing Spider-Man 2 where you had too many people in it. Batman vs. Superman, too many people in it. And Avengers Age of Ultron, probably too many people in it. This one had 27 speaking roles that they pointed out. 27. The next one will have like 60, but
67, I think.
67.
Actually.
But-
if the rumors are to
But
be
they were
believed.
able to pull it off because they realized that not everyone needed I get that. Not everyone needed a full part in the script. They all got their moments, and you moved on.
Absolutely.
And that's something that more movies need to figure out. If you're going to have an ensemble cast, not everyone gets top billing.
Right.
yeah, well,
and
think
we'll
of-
go on to supporting cast here in just a minute, but just to bring it back. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just like with that point, like just think about Hawkeye gets what 5 minutes of screen
they're a
time in
good
this,
5 minutes.
but like everything is memorable. And right when he shows up in this movie, you're like, oh, it's Hawkeye. I don't need anything else.
Is he wearing guy liner? That's what I I wonder if he was hanging out with
Hawkeye
Billy Joe
himself used to
from...
wear guy liner. At least he's not wearing the purple cowl.
One of the
That
other
was-
one of the other things I wanted to talk about though was like transitioning over to the scenes with Vision and Scarlet Witch.
Oh yeah.
Just absolutely incredible, and it sets up their relationship so well because in the comics, of course, they have this long-running relationship. In fact,
They have a child.
just today, I went to Killen's Comics and I purchased Vision number 7, and the cover
Visit
of Vision
Killen
number
Comics.
7 is Scarlet Witch just wrapped around Vision. It's a very sensual cover. I'll show
how
it
they
to you.
have kids that really
They were fake. That's the whole thing. They were in her head.
Yeah.
Which is why she went crazy.
You know,
Full House of M.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Norby-
they made the kids disappear and she went
You know,
batshit.
to talk about, well, to shout out to Allison who said Vision and people clothes is like the best thing ever.
Same thing.
It really is.
You know, Vision and Scarlet Witch, like they're definitely sowing the seeds of that relationship and everything, but Vision had one of those best things. Like another scene that I really love in this movie is when it's when Scarlet Witch, it's when they're all sitting there debating the Accords after General Ross makes his presentation, and they go back in the room and they're all there. Because Vision has a great line in that scene where he talks about our strength breeds conflict breeds catastrophe, all that kind of stuff. Like it's just like really good, like visceral, going back and forth. Everybody's doing their thing, And actually, I love that War Machine calls out Steve and says that is dangerously arrogant. What you're thinking right now, like that all these people are wrong and that we're the only ones who are correct.
And War Machine's completely wrong. But yeah,
while we're on Scarlet Witch, one of the things that I heard an interview about, I think it was on HBO or Fat Man. She basically said that it was the Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen, yeah.
She said that the wonderful thing about Scarlet Witch in this movie is that there's a duality in the sense that Vision does not fear her because he doesn't know what fear is, or he doesn't care about what her powers are. But everybody else is scared of her. And I went into it thinking, wow, I'm really going to see people be scared of Scarlet Witch. Totally not there. So I don't know if it was something in the deleted scenes where it might be something else, but
I think it's just the power base.
I don't see anybody being scared.
Well, I mean, like when you see what she can do,
the entire world was
I think the
entire world was scared of her.
I think it was just because of the
one scene. The one scene, maybe.
She tried to contain the explosion. She was the Nitro from the comics.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Very good comparison. Yeah.
So what happens is that you can assume the Sokovia Accords were going on for a while because they're named after Sokovia and not Nigeria. But the whole point behind that is she is the dynamite that sets everything off.
Yes.
The world is scared of her. And Tony's scared of her too because he puts her under house arrest.
Well, if you remember,
that's a me problem in the sense that I went into it expecting a lot more of that. I just didn't get it. I was a little childishly like.
I would say when you look at like how Tony had Vision basically make sure that she was under this kind of house arrest. That to me is him acknowledging like she is the most dangerous out of them all.
I mean, that's fair.
Because I need to make sure I know where she is at all times. That's kind of how I read that.
You want to know what my favorite scene was?
Yeah. What's your favorite scene?
What is your favorite scene?
Honestly, it's not a very exciting scene, but it's the one where Tony, we see young Tony for the first time.
Absolutely. Oh my god, that was amazing CGI.
That did more character building than
that's what I love
an entire
about
movie.
Is because it was a 3-minute scene, but it set the tone for the movie. It set what he was fighting for, and it had such nice depth in it because you could see that, especially when his mother says, "Are you sure you don't want to say something to him?" You know,
well, and that whole scene, I love how
you look back on it, you say, that's not actually what she's saying, but that's Tony's.
That's Tony's subconscious doing that.
Saying that, and he goes, "I know it's going to happen," and he's doing it to show. It's building the plot, obviously.
Well,
it's the biggest
and
plot.
that sows the seed. That plants the seeds of what the main conflict is going to be.
Builds it, and then they chop it down at the end.
And actually, when we were in there, somebody laughed when it started. Like the girl singing at the piano, his mom. Like somebody in the theater laughed. Like,
well,
oh God, we're singing in this movie.
It might have
like
been me because I remember her from Wayward Pines.
Oh yeah,
what a crazy bitch she was.
It's also very jostling because you go from one scene where it's the new Avengers and that explosion, and immediately you go to her singing at the piano. It's very much takes you out of it.
It is, but
that was the point.
But exactly, and oh god, yeah, that scene is great. Well, because it informs you. We don't really get to see. Well, I mean, getting to see young Tony with that de-aging technology is pretty cool. But like the fact that you're right, like it informs the regret, once again, another regret that Tony Stark has in his entire life.
It sets the tone for Tony himself because he's at the point where he has no losses. I mean, when it says. Nellie, please introduce Pepper Potts, and he just glazes over, and you can see him.
But again, the look on his face, like,
just heartbreaking performance, but it sets a really. I
like that he sold that too, because obviously that was just because Gwyneth Paltrow doesn't want to be in this movie.
Didn't want to be in the movie.
So she don't want her in their movie.
She's doing her placenta body products.
But you know, it's crazy. But he sold that throughout the movie, and it was awesome to be able to see that and like. It made sense.
And they kept referencing Pepper throughout the movie.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
I have a question. And you guys hopefully can answer this.
42.
When you I don't have the question, but I can answer it.
That's how it goes.
I had a mental block when I saw young Robert Downey. I was immediately in the 80s. I was immediately in
Weird Science.
Absolutely. I don't know enough about young Tony to know if he was as reckless as his 80s character. Like, I mean, his 80s real life person. I mean, is that...
That's the first we've seen of young Tony, but we can assume based on the fact that...
I mean, like, I don't know...
Because in every other...
I don't know exactly how young Tony is
Well,
at the beginning of Iron Man 3.
We can assume that he's
but,
probably a slacker and hungover.
He's gotten close to
No,
Robert
yeah,
Downey Jr.
but
age.
I guess
Yeah.
for me, all I saw was I hate to say the '80s version of Robert Downey Jr. where he didn't give a shit about anything.
It's kind of
yeah.
close. It's very close
But
to
in
that.
the actual, or excuse me, in the comics and in all the movies that I've seen of young Tony, he just excelled at everything. He did everything really, really easy.
Yeah.
But then,
that you have to separate this from the comics.
And I'll go one step
Right.
further and argue the Tony Stark in the comics isn't really a fun character. There's a reason why
yeah.
Civil War didn't work in the comic books because no one gave a shit about Tony Stark.
And at that point, he's just an alcoholic that
Yeah.
no one cares
Yeah.
about.
and I guess I
Sober
do have
at
to take
that
it back to the
Well, this is my story
original Iron Man where he didn't give two shits.
Right,
He partied
exactly.
every day. So
Yeah.
I guess that.
And I mean, like, obviously
Well-
that's breeded in, or that's what he's done for
the
his
comics,
entire
it's about-
life
And
up to that point.
I think it's a bit about his home life too, because he might be
Yeah.
someone that excels and is everything's easy to him,
Yeah.
but then to his parents, he's never going to measure up.
Think
But
about,
again, like,
think about
remember-
the Instagrams of rich white douchebag young men who post pictures of the Rolex and stuff like that.
Country Thunder.
Well, and don't forget,
Imagine that, but that's Tony.
Right.
And don't forget the later scene, another one of my favorite scenes, where he and Cap are talking at the new facility in Wakanda. Like, he says, you know, Dad was insufferable, but Mom made it work, like, type thing, when he's talking about Pepper. Like, yeah, that's just like, I think he's constantly fighting with himself for his whole life, just, you know, not caring, the rich kid. He obviously doesn't get the attention he wants from his father at home, so that leads him to act out and such. So
The original-
there's like a lot of stuff that goes into that, but I love that we get to see young Tony. Like,
The original Iron Man, though, you can tell he's just a man baby who has a lot of money. He didn't care about what he was doing until he got trapped in that cave.
Yeah. So let's start. I know Jeremy's given about 19 favorite scenes, but let's
do one.
kind of start wrapping up the favorite scenes so we can start talking about the supporting characters,
Yeah.
and then also getting to Evans, and because this is his movie.
Can I
so
just shoot
Scott,
one scene in that
go-
whole
go
little
for it.
hoopla? And it was already kind of discussed a little bit, but the starting around the circle and discussing the chords is my favorite scene in this movie because it does something that I didn't think they were going to be able to do, and that was make you believe that both sides had a point.
yeah,
like it too.
And I love the back and forth.
and that's the key to this movie working.
Yeah.
Like,
And you know, anyone who comes in there saying they're Team Stark or Team Cap has a moment in that scene where you're like, I see where you're coming from.
Yep.
Now, I don't agree with you, and I think, like I said, Rhodey saying it was naive. I don't agree with Rhodey at all because we've seen in the past that S.H.I.E.L.D. has forced them to do things. S.H.I.E.L.D. tried to nuke New York.
Yeah.
So I'm not a whole fan of governmental entities taking these guys over and saying where they need to go. So I'm still Team Cap, but I see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And that's good script writing and good acting.
yes, Nate.
I'll go more onto this if I remember it because I can't. On things that didn't work. They had their sides. They believed in their sides, but the sides were never fleshed out enough to make me actually believe that they thought their sides were what they were doing.
Yeah, well-
I will get into more of that.
And I will argue.
I expect nothing.
I just, yeah,
Do
we'll
that
talk
coming
about
up.
that
Bailey,
later.
do you have a favorite scene you wanted to mention before we move on to talk about some of the
Just Paul
supporting
Rudd.
characters?
Like you,
Oh,
you
yeah.
just could
Everything
literally
about
drop.
Well, that's a great
Paul-
segue into the supporting characters.
Yeah, Paul Rudd. He's any one of us because if any one of us got dropped in an Avengers movie, we do the exact same thing.
He's not any one of us because I would not have done Halloween 6.
No joke. I almost sent that into Hollywood Babylon for exquisite acting. Like that is terrible.
So take that back.
No, but
Okay,
yeah.
in the lives that we have right now, if someone called you and dropped you on an Avengers set, I have to clarify.
And you're right. Like that scene just where he meets Captain America and he's just like grabs his shoulders like Jesus. You know? Like,
I'm shaking your hand too long. Like, but we don't do that.
it's great. It's
So I
great.
want to go around the table with this one and talk about the supporting characters that are not the main three. And in my estimation, the main three are obviously Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., and then I'm including Sebastian Stan as the third lead as the Winter Soldier. So now my rule to these guys beforehand was that not everyone can pick Spider-Man. So let's start with Jeremy, move it around the table, talk about a supporting character that really stood out for you. Because like Scott said, there were 27 different speaking roles in this movie. Let's talk about them.
It starts and ends with Black Panther for me. I like Jeremy Bailey over there. Like I remember Black Panther's animated movie, and if you've never watched like the Avengers like cartoons,
So
like
good.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes or Avengers Assemble, like especially Mightiest Heroes. Black Panther is amazing.
Yeah.
And this character, if you've never read the comics, like there is so much stuff you can do with this character. And to have Chadwick Boseman walk into a movie this crowded and stand out that good is just amazing
And
to me.
you knew who he was the minute that he was on screen.
And like the accent,
No one said-
is perfect. The presence is very regal that he cuts. And this,
The only like the second black man in that movie.
well, and I'll
third,
give you this. Third.
That's 3 more than DC.
But here's the
Cyborg. I mean, he was half black man. Oh my god!
Okay, but here's what the last thing I'll say about Panther, unless anybody else wants to, but they got his fighting style so right because literally he took on Bucky in full-on Winter Soldier mode without his armor and kicked his ass. Yeah. Like, all right, like he had a little panic moment when he tried to break the metal arm, but like then all of a sudden he throws him down some stairwells and back kicks him off these stairs. Like,
Can we?
perfect fighting.
The one thing I love about Black Panther, which I think I was sitting next to you.
Yeah.
At one point, he jumps off of a building like 4 or 5 stories, and he lands. There's not a sound.
Not a
And I
damn
looked. I was
sound.
like,
Can we assume he's got some super soldier in him? Because there's no way any human
I don't
being
know.
could have
Well,
pulled
I
that
mean,
off.
like if you
Well, I
believe
thought it was
like
always
Panther ever have any
Panther was always more of like a
so.
spiritual. Wasn't
yeah,
it like
well,
the
I mean, I believe like going
He's
from
got
Earth's Mightiest
he's juicing
Heroes.
something, whether it's magic or something else. He's juicing something.
First off, the one thing I have wrong with Panther, while we're talking about Panther, and my memory sucks. The ring may have something to do in the comics.
You did mention this,
But it goes back into my things that we had ideas, but we ran out of time. When he tried to punch the arm, and then there was this weird magnetic force that stopped them, I figured maybe like vibranium, or something like that. They have an opposing force, something like that.
Well,
an opposing
yeah.
charge, and he couldn't hit it. And then they never fleshed it out.
well, I think personally, the ring is just a royal heirloom.
Yeah,
like that.
he's
This is
king
now
now.
the king of Wakanda.
then explain the punch
Well-
that didn't hit.
Well, I think that was
His
just
entire
his.
suit is vibranium.
Yeah.
His entire because
he wasn't in the suit.
Oh, well,
Oh, were you talking about when he tries to break his
That's
arm
where I
in
go
the
with-
stairwell?
No, he punches it. He goes fist first into the arm, and you could see his arm like shake
Okay,
like
that's
that.
where
I
I
don't
go.
remember
He's
that
got some
quite as
super
much.
soldier in him. That's
Well,
the way
I
explain
don't think he does because like the Black Panther from the comics and from Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon it's just like they have like these like for generations they've had this sacred
Warriors.
they're warriors,
Yeah.
they've been trained, they have these special like elixirs that they make from Wakandan plants that give them heightened senses
all
and stuff like
cannabis.
that.
It's all
Exactly.
cannabis.
Yeah, exactly.
It's coming back.
Make it legal.
No, like that, and I think that but literally, Black Panther is one of the most skilled. He probably is the most skilled fighter in the entire Marvel Comics
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
And the fact that they brought him in, and literally nobody could take him.
Yeah,
it
no.
took Scarlet, or it took I always do that. It took Black Widow shooting him like 5 times
Yeah.
with
The
tasers.
taser, he just kept coming.
and he kept,
Yeah.
and he still grabbed onto the plane. Like I just love that they got him completely right. Cannot wait for his
Oh,
solo.
yeah. I
Absolutely.
was excited for Black Panther. Now I can't wait for Black Panther.
Exactly.
That's
And you
gonna
got
be
a
so
couple years to wait.
Yes.
But
February
Bailey,
2018.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Bailey, let's talk about supporting characters.
Sharon Carter.
Oh, good call, man.
Nice, Agent 13
Good call.
herself.
It's
That kiss, and then that look in the car
Well, no,
from
it's
Falcon and
it's-
Winter Soldier.
It's the fact
amazing.
that she just didn't give a shit. She's like, "Hey, they're gonna find me. Here's all your shit." Like they're gonna find. Like it's a strong role. I mean, it is breaking the rules, but again, it's a female role model. It's like, you know what? I know what you're doing's wrong. I'm gonna stand behind you. Grandma believed in it. I guess I have to as well. And the whole hiding of the relationship from other people. It was awesome to see her, one, keep her shit together, because she could have been in shambles when her grandma died.
Yes.
And then, two, she's so strong, she stands on her own feet, and then she waits for Cap to lean in, and she's not going to be the one to do it, to do it. And that's-
Sir, it was her aunt. It wasn't her.
well, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me. She
Well,
just
no,
looked
and I
about
guess
1,000.
that was kind of a reveal to people, but I always kind of figured,
I just assumed
like,
it's-
from
that
Winter
was the
Soldier.
case.
But I
But-
guess they never technically
And
say it.
if you're only watching MCU, if you've never read a comic, there's nothing because
Good
she's
point.
Agent 13, and there's nothing that correlates them in Winter Soldier.
That is a good point.
Now, I also want to point out too, I'm very happy that they didn't turn her at the end because there was some discussion
That does happen.
she was going to flip slides at the end. And
You mean like that bullshit James Bond movie we just watched?
exactly?
Well, that does happen in the comic arc. So.
Well, she's the one that really kills Cap.
Captain America.
I mean,
yeah,
she
so,
stabs him in the
comics.
belly.
But I'm happy they didn't.
Spoiler alert! I mean, come on.
It's all Vegas spoilers.
But I'm happy they didn't because it would have tarnished what that character arc was
built
doing.
up, yeah.
Was the fact that she was making a choice based on what her aunt said, which
absolutely.
was, when you don't think it's time to compromise, you stand and make
stand
other
your
people
ground.
move out of the way.
It's another
and that's
great
what
scene.
she did. And if she would have turned at the end, it would have ruined that. So I'm
absolutely,
glad
yeah.
they didn't have that
Yeah,
happen.
I agree.
good call,
Scott,
Bailey.
supporting character.
Hawkeye.
Nice.
That wasn't the one you whispered to me, right?
No,
Good, okay.
wasn't.
Nate's gone, so I can say he's a regular dude, right?
No, just making sure. Hawkeye has been one of my favorite characters from Thor on. His little scene he stole in Thor. Everyone's like he got robbed in Avengers. I think his fight part in the Avengers at the very end makes up for all of that.
The second you walk out that
Yes.
door, that was the shit.
Well,
Oh my God, that's the
Age of
best
Ultron,
speech in an
and
MCU movie,
that's
man.
perfect. And this one too, I knew he was coming, and then when he showed up, I was all happy and grinning.
It's just smiles,
and then,
man.
And then his first line, Scarlet Witch is like, "What are you doing here? Disappointing my kids." I was like, yes, love it.
Well, also, like, what? God, I love the line when the airport scene again, where Tony like sees him. He's like, "Hey, retirement didn't work with you," and he says, "Yeah, I played some golf. I shot 18 holes. Shot 18. I just can't seem to miss." Like, it's just perfect. Hawkeye.
Yes, and Renner's delivery is perfect. Like when Stark walks into the raft, and you hear Renner going, "The futurist, everyone, the future!"
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh, that is perfect.
Yes, like you talk about making your presence known
He is-
with little screen time. Like,
He's always been one of my favorite characters in the MCU, and that's why I think I give Age of Ultron a little more than some, because it was really his movie, and I
do
enjoyed
too.
that for it.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
My guy, and really hasn't been talked about quite yet at all, I don't think, in this podcast, and that is Daniel, I'm not Baron Zemo quite yet, Brule. Zemo
Lord
was
helmets.
fantastic in this movie. And so, talk about such a great turn, because he goes in, he finds the Winter Soldier codes, which hilarious, by the way, that one of the words they used to tick the Winter Soldier was Homecoming.
Yeah.
Which they just announced Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's going through and he finds the Winter Soldier's book from the old Colonel, and that's able to basically get the Winter Soldier in a spot where he can kind of reactivate this Manchurian candidate of the Winter Soldier. And then he comes up with this plot after he learns from Winter Soldier about the other kind of super soldiers that the Soviets had made at the same time.
Yeah.
Automatically, I think everyone in that theater, you'd be lying if you said you didn't think that his plan was going to be to
Let's
take
use
those
these,
soldiers and then kind of
I was surprised.
dominate the Avengers, go and take out the world. What's he do in that scene later on?
Kills him.
Shoots him in the head.
Kills him.
Doesn't
Gets
even
rid
steal
of
the
him.
serum. The other thing is
And you don't
maybe
even
he'll
see
make
it.
himself do
You don't
it.
even see it. It's just all of a sudden, bam! You see holes in the tanks.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
and
exactly.
that's the thriller part of this movie is you don't see what's coming. Except for I will argue, and we talked about that scene with Stark's parents. As soon as you showed Stark's parents, you knew Winter Soldier killed Stark's parents.
Yeah.
But everything else caught you off guard. At least I thought so.
Yeah.
well,
Bailey?
I wanted to piggyback off of, let me get the name correct. I'll just say Zemo.
yeah.
I loved the fact, and it kept me in the movie, that they did not make him a leading man from Hollywood, because when
yes.
we had First Class, it was ruined with
yeah.
Kevin Bacon. Like, he was First Class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
just
was-
liked him in First Class.
No,
but yeah, I
I'm
hear
not
what
saying
you're
I didn't like him, but I just was waiting for Gene Hackman to run in and tell me he couldn't dance. I was like, I
Yeah, it was
really-
kind of nice to not be
No, it
able
was
to place
amazing
him as
because he
another
did a great
character.
job. You're like, I know that guy. I don't know from where. He's creepy. He's doing an amazing job. But yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not saying he was. I love the character in the movie that they didn't pick someone that was leading, because it would have pulled me out of the whole thing.
And the thing that really struck me about Zemo and about Daniel Brühl is, it's not. You're right. Like, it's not some mustache twirling villain. It's not an Ultron.
Yeah.
It's not a Loki trying to destroy the world. He literally just wants revenge.
He has a point.
Like yes,
You-
like that's the thing.
He's
There's-
the third argument in
Yes,
the Civil War,
because,
where you
like-
say all of them have a point.
And like the scenes where they're very quick and they're just throwaways until the very end of the movie, but where he's listening to his phone, where you think he's on a phone call at first, then you hear again the exact same thing. You're like, that's something weird, and then you learn what happened, where his family killed in Sokovia and everything, and Black Panther's even there after Zemo kills his father. He's listening to this, and even he all of a sudden can't muster the revenge anymore. It's just like, this is a man who's lost everything, and as he says, I want to see an empire fall. What better way to do that? Loki can't do it. Ultron can't do it. Get them to destroy each other. And it's
Right.
And again, the character arc there makes him one of the better villains of the MCU, because not only was it a revenge based, but he was under the assumption, as Craig's pointed out, that the world would be better off without these people. He takes Vision's route, saying it's getting worse because these assholes are here. Let's get rid of them all. And he is willing to sacrifice himself because at the end with the voicemail, if you noticed, he deletes the voicemail.
Yeah, because he's
like,
done.
He's like, I'm never going to hear these guys again because I'm going to join them. And then he tries to plug himself in the face.
And I love Panther's line after saving him, like, nope, the living aren't done with you yet. Like,
I'm still waiting for him to rip his face off of Red Skull, but what are you going to do?
And that's, I'll get into that later because that's one of my complaints about the movie.
So
but just before we move on, just
Okay.
real quick, the scene with Spider-Man and Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark is just amazing. It's fantastic. I love it to death, every moment of that
and
scene.
And Marissa Tomei.
Yeah.
Yes, well, because I'll just mention one line really quick before we move on. Where he's talking to him in the bedroom and he says, you know, why do you do this? And the lines were so great, I actually committed them to memory the first time. He said, when you can do what I do and you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you. And I loved that line. It's just like fantastic writing by Marcus and McFeely. That's like just a great scene.
And it's Uncle Ben without saying Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I felt it was forced. It was like, I'm just going to fly and find this kid and this, that, and the other.
It did seem odd. I thought that it would be better. I actually talked to Brian from After the Hype about this. I think that if it would have been juxtapositioned by a recruitment on the other side, meaning just show Clint going and getting Ant-Man, and getting Scott Lang, then that I think would have solved that problem for me, because it did feel a little bit like, oh, by the way, we just got the rights. Here's Queens. And so I thought the scene was played really well between the two actors, but it did seem it was kind of like Tony Stark saw this kid on YouTube and he knew that he was Spider-Man.
Why couldn't it have been the other way around? Why couldn't it have been Peter Parker needs some cash for his stuff, doesn't want to tell anybody for his research and development?
That's probably more of a character choice they're doing with him, you know, like trying to stay low key and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, we've got the internet. He's a smart ass kid, and he can just send a private email and say, "Hey, I have this weird ability. I know this sounds, something like that."
But after seeing a movie that based a big portion of the movie off of an email, I'm really glad they stayed away from emails in this movie. You can see
in the lines that Robert Downey Jr. said, because there's even more in that short space that they talk where he's like, I'm special, but I'm not, so I can't be, so I won't be. Like there's a lot of verbal acrobatics happening there, but it's really, really deep stuff.
I'm probably connecting the dots more for the directors than I should because I like the movie, but I felt it made perfect sense because Stark has shown over and over again that he is going to try to develop what he needs to save the day and his own ideas. So I'm sure he's got an algorithm that Friday is running the entire time, scanning all of social media.
Probably scanning for any kind of heroes.
Exactly, and then vice versa, where you say, and I hear you, where you say Parker could have contacted him. Yeah. How many emails has Stark gotten to his corporate account saying, "I'm a superhero, come say hi"?
Okay, so it does have holes in it. I just would have preferred a different way.
We don't know like when in the process Spider-Man actually came back to Marvel. If it was in the middle of filming, if it was
when they got the rights.
Exactly.
If you believe the Russo brothers, though, they gave an interview where they said
we have both of them.
No. They always had him in the script. They said this on it was on Screen Junkies last week. They always had him in the script, and actually they did that before they had the rights because they wanted to give Marvel a bargaining chip and saying, if you don't have him, we don't have a movie.
Okay.
And so the Russo brothers are claiming, I don't know if they're telling the truth now or not, that we did it this way, and he was always in there to give Feige the ammunition with Disney to say, you need to have this happen.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about the lead characters here. I want to talk in particular, I'm going to start this one off. We have not really mentioned Chris Evans much in this podcast.
Isn't that crazy?
And
that just crazy?
I think people say that that this isn't necessarily a Captain America movie, and I know that you mentioned that it's kind of a Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man movie almost to an extent, but I would say that this is absolutely the continuation and really the closing trilogy of the Captain America movie. I think if you were to watch this, it's a direct sequel to Winter Soldier, first of all, and the relationship between Sebastian Stan and Chris Evans is fantastic.
It's a great ending.
It's basically like, they act like brothers throughout all of this, and you can just tell the love that they have for one another. It's incredible. So I want to give Chris Evans his due. For some reason, one thing that's continually bothering me whenever I see him in interviews or in this movie, the man's lips are so pink, and I don't understand why. But outside of that, he did such a fantastic job as Captain America. And so let's talk a bit about Evans. Let's talk about RDJ a little bit more. We've already talked about him a bit, and then also let's hit on Sebastian Stan. So I'll leave that to you.
This is a Captain America movie, and anyone who says differently is either not a Captain America fan, which I get, and if you're going to go in there looking for Iron Man to steal the show, he will for you.
Yeah.
But this is a Captain America film, because if it was an Avengers sequel and it had an Avengers title, it wouldn't have worked because, for one, you didn't have all the Avengers in there. Thor and Hulk are missing. But also the story. Are they still in the thing? Two
40,000 megaton warheads, as Ross calls them.
Makes sense. I also like that Ross had turned there too. He's no longer. You can tell he's no longer revenge bent after the heart attack. He's like, I had.
It's very practical now. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I got perspective. I don't need to follow Banner around everywhere. I'll just kill him later.
Yeah.
But no, this is a Cap movie because it follows that trilogy, and it follows the idea that this man is making a choice. And what I like about it the most is actually, and I hit on this by mistake when I was doing the beginning podcast before we went to go see the movie, and I was joking how Stark changed his mind, but both of them do.
Yeah.
In First Avengers, Cap is very much a company man for the government, and over the course of 3 movies, he turns and decides that it's more about the individual. And where Stark is always about the individual, and now he turns to being a company man.
Yeah.
And I like that dichotomy. And I think it is a perfect... hit the button
This interlude brought to you
my phone
by
my phone does
Nathan
weird,
Peake.
it touches weird things. I was looking at the video.
It touches weird things?
That's the S7. It's got the upgrade for the...
No, if you what you're
it's
talking
a
about.
Cap movie.
Yeah, well, I'll clarify what I mean by this is just as much Iron Man's movie. Robert Downey Jr. a while back, I can't remember who he was getting interviewed by, but they asked him about Iron Man 4, and he said, well, Civil War is kind of Iron Man 4. Like, it's kind of both Captain America 3 and Iron Man 4. And that's really what I got here, because you talk about Chris Evans. The scene where I think it really shines through is the scene after they capture Bucky in Wakanda, and they're... or Geneva or whatever they're at, but like it's all of a sudden just Robert Downey Jr. It's Tony Stark and Steve Rogers in a room just talking the philosophy of it, and you see how Tony Stark gets annoyed with Steve when he's just like, oh, I knew Howard when he was like a bachelor. Oh, really? You knew him? Yeah, he never mentioned that. Like all that kind of thing. It's once again the philosophy of, and even Tony Stark has to admit it, like, oh yeah, he says, I don't mean to be difficult. He's like, of course not. You're a super polite guy, like all this. Chris Evans really does take the stand here, and he doesn't seem like the Boy Scout from the first Avengers when he's making this stand. He seems like somebody who's been through what he went through with the Winter Soldier. He gave himself to the government in 2 times, and both times he ended up frozen, and then he ended up betrayed by that government. So, like, it's not just, oh, I have to do what's right, I'm Captain America. It's literally, what if they, as his line he has, what if they send us to a place we don't think we should go? What if there's a place we need to go, and they don't let us go?
Go ahead.
I would just call this Iron Man 3.5. It's obviously a setup because we know it is for Iron Man 4. You see one side of Iron Man, but I don't think you ever see the other side. Everybody made the joke about Batman, or at least Kevin Smith did, Batman, when God, what's his name?
Ben Affleck.
Where he just looked, he was just mad all the time. And I think that's all I really got from Iron Man was that he was just kind of... Because even the end where, yeah, the son of a bitch killed my mom, I get it, but it seems almost uncharacteristic at that point where he's made the decision to help them to instantly just rage out.
I can see that a little bit.
It seemed uncharacteristic. I saw one side of Iron Man, and then... I think this is a lead into his next movie where he's dealing with repercussions of what he did in Civil War.
And I think the reason why that happened, just to answer that specifically, I think there's a difference between being told Bucky killed your parents and seeing it happen. Yeah. I think that's the disconnect. It's like you can see, okay, Bucky killed your parents, but when you see him literally punch the life out of Howard Stark and then choke the life out of his mom, there's something that snaps inside you there.
That was impressive that they did that. When he was like ringing back, I was like, are they going to show this?
Yes.
And it's brutal. It's very brutal.
But I don't. it still seemed really uncharacteristic for me that Iron Man, with all of his knowledge, and although he's egotistically driven and very short-tempered, it seemed weird to me that he flipped so. It seemed like a plot device that they had to throw in there to get to the final plot.
Okay.
Two points to that. I agreed with
You had your 2 points. It's my turn. Hey. No. Can I finish? By the way, I've been just saying.
I'm done to
You said something about not stepping on people?
I love the fact that both of them flipped. I think that Captain America finally understands his power and his responsibility, because at the beginning, when it all started,
Spider-Man.
I've got. No,
you're right.
Well, I was also going to throw the Dark Knight line in there, because you get, the you either die a hero or live long enough to
See
become a
yourself
villain.
become a villain, yeah.
Because when this whole journey started, he's like, okay, I've got these awesome powers. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to run through walls and all this stuff. And now it's Iron Man acting more than Cap. And Cap's like, no, there's a whole bunch of shit that you can't see that I've already been through. And go ahead.
No, I'm just rewinding so I don't forget. I agree with Nate.
Holy shit!
Listen,
The day has come. Roll.
I'm leaving. Goodbye. Thank you. My time on front row is done.
I just love that the thunder rolled before you said that line.
I'm too damn nice. I just like to walk all over.
Keep going.
I agree with you the first time I saw it, because I was like, there's no freaking way that he just went in and said, we're going to have a truce, and then, oh, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and try to kill everybody now. But then I was thinking to myself afterwards, I'm like, imagine, sorry, Mom, if you listen to this, imagine you just watch your mother choke the life out of her. And then there's another point, too, in the fact that, and I have a question for everybody, is you find out one of your good friends knew about it and didn't tell you. And here's my question for everybody. When did Cap find out?
Well, I heard something about this, but I also remembered it about an hour and a half after we watched it. I think that there's that scene in Winter Soldier where he's talking to Armin Zola, and he says, like, when history needed changed, we changed it, and it showed a picture of Howard Stark. Oh, I think that might be where he starts to put it together a little bit, because you remember when that reveal happens, because that's where I think why Tony snaps so much. Not necessarily just because Bucky's there, the guy who actually killed his parents. It's when Cap grabs his arm, and once again, Downey's acting. He turns, the way his face looks when he turns, you can tell. He already knows. He already knows what this is. Did you know? And, Steve's trying to tiptoe around it like, I didn't know it was him. I think that's where he snaps. Like, are you serious, Cap? We've been close. We've saved the world together, and you didn't tell me this.
Which is exactly.
And that's what I think. I think it's in Winter Soldier. I think Cap's right when he says, "I didn't know it was him." But I think in the back of Cap's mind, he's like, "I think I know it was him."
Which is exactly what was happening earlier on. When Cap did the same thing, Cap was going to sign the Accords, and then he found out that they had Scarlet Witch under house arrest.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the same turn. It was, you didn't give me all the information you should have gave me, and therefore I can't trust you again.
And I think that's where the snap comes. Yes. And you're right. Like, but many people have pointed that out. It's just like he's making a joke about Bucky being the Manchurian Candidate, and then 5 minutes later he's trying to kill him
because he watched his parents die.
Yeah,
on video.
and so that's what I would say to that as well. But that kind of gets us into our gripes, doesn't it?
Right. Well, it does a little bit. But just before we get there, I just want to mention that Sebastian Stan does such a fantastic job.
We haven't even talked about Bucky hardly
going
at all.
into the. I mean, there's just so much to talk about in this movie, and I get that, but we are going to try to move it along a little bit. But Sebastian Stan does such a fantastic job
I'll
as
just
Winter
interject
Soldier.
one thing.
And I think that this is his best movie as Winter Soldier.
When Zemo is saying the words again,
thank you. God, it was brilliant.
Stan's reaction to that when he realizes what Zemo's doing is amazing. It's like it is acting. It is amazing acting at its finest.
When you just see his first face, like
he just puts his head down. And he's just like, no, like I'm not doing this.
Or even when Cap turned around and he goes, or he's choking or something. He goes, do you remember their deaths or anything? He goes, I remember
all of
like,
them.
Oh,
yeah.
it was heartbreaking.
Yes.
Okay.
No, you're right. Like that. The thing about Stan is great in this. Yes. Sorry. I'm not.
All right. So we're going to go into a rapid fire for this one. What didn't work? Okay. We're going to go around the room. I'm going to start this one. What didn't work for me was the ending. I didn't like the cell phone giving to Tony, just saying like, hey, if you come into trouble. I really wanted to see, I think that we needed to see something more catastrophic happening prior to setting up to Infinity War, because I want something that would have been the impetus for having to get back together to fight Thanos, and I just didn't get that. So
that might happen
I
more through
didn't.
phase 3.
It
Yeah,
could,
we do have 9 more
but-
films to deal
But
with.
you know, for me, it just didn't. I didn't particularly care for the end because it just seemed kind of like we're all going to make up and be super friends, and it to me that I wish that they would have continued the Civil War.
Based on what the Russos have been saying in interviews, you're going to get that in Infinity War 1.
Yeah,
I think Infinity War 1's going to end with everyone on the ground.
I think everybody keeps thinking that like
just call it Infinity War now because
yeah. Well, I think that everybody thinks that like Infinity War is going to be like like fighting in one movie and fighting in another. I think Infinity War 1 will be more set up to the fight.
It is gonna be Empire Strikes Back.
But
I get that, but I mean, I just wanted I wanted something that wasn't so concrete, saying yes, Captain America has become part of the Secret Avengers, but Avengers Underground, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
But Tony is okay with them. I mean, it just seemed to me like I wish that those ideals that were still there for them fighting against each other would have continued on. I didn't need that resolution of him giving him a Nokia cell phone or burn phone or whatever.
And I see your point there, and I think I would have been more forgiving of that if Tony doesn't have a little smile on his face, like when he sees it there. Like there's a slight little smile he turns when he's reading it, when the note's being read.
I mean, if we're going to gripe about his friend saying that I knew he killed your parents. But at the same token, a friend getting a cell phone from a friend saying I still care about you. If you need me, call me.
Well,
Sure.
you're right. Like he does say, like I thought I was sparing you, but I realize now I was sparing myself.
Or he's my friend.
Sure.
I was too.
I'll go next because I have one gripe about this. As awesome as Daniel Bruhl's performance is, you didn't really need to call him Zemo. You could have called him John
But I think it
Stostovich.
sets up for later.
Well, I mean, if they're gonna do that, fine. But a lot of people's gripes are like, oh, because I've heard like the Collider guys, for example, they're like they crap the bed on the villain again. Like it's like this. No, the villain turn was great. This turn was great. You're upset because you have a picture in your mind of what Zemo is, and this was not it. So I think like if you just made him, I don't know, Joe Schmo villain, it would have been a lot more accepting for them because the turn is great. So I don't really, but you're right. Like that is forgiven in my book if they turn him into something really sinister down the road.
To go off of that, I think calling him the villain is a misnomer. I think he's more the match, and based on the fact that this is clearly a Captain America movie, Tony is the villain.
I think they kind of both are, honestly.
I could see both. But
I think they kind of
still
both
feel
are.
that in this movie, the way they portrayed it and the way they wanted to do it, Iron Man is the villain.
Well, I mean, just speaking about these two, it's pretty hard to go out of this movie and be like, oh yeah, Captain was completely right. There's nothing Tony Stark could have. Like, Tony Stark had no points. You don't do that in this movie.
I will say.
Well, and also
Cap was completely right.
Zemo kind of had a point.
Zemo had a point himself. Yeah.
Nate, what didn't work?
Oh,
Rapid fire.
59, 58.
It just goes back to me. I loved a lot of things about the movie, but the one thing I thought the heart was in the wrong place, or the heart wasn't beating fast enough for me. They tried to do a lot of plot points, maybe too much. I will agree with Scott again. I know. In the sense that they did have 26, 27 speaking points, and everybody did have their moment. I just thought the moments were forced and maybe not necessary. I said it in the rapid fire outside the movie theater. You could take Spider-Man out of it. He's not important to the movie as a whole. He's there as a cameo and a setup for his own movie, and he does nothing for the plot. It was nice, it was fun, it was enjoyable, I liked it, but it did nothing for the movie as a whole. And there were a lot of plot points set up and a lot of things that just didn't get a whole lot of traction. I thought that what they were fighting for made sense in their own heads, and we understood what they were fighting for because we went in as a knowledgeable audience, because that's who we are now. They don't have to. We're a smart audience in the sense that they have us. They have our money.
Yeah.
We're gonna go in. We're gonna buy the comics. We know it's coming. But I didn't feel what they were fighting for. Cap's major fighting point was, oh boy, he's my friend, and that's the thing, is he's my friend. And if we're trying to get away from the Boy Scoutness of Captain America, we have to see more than he's just my friend, and we have to see more of Iron Man than just Iron Mad. And I want to see more, and I saw more depth from Scarlet Witch than I ever did from Iron Man. And personally, I personally did.
I mean, I could see I could see where you're going, but I would disagree with that, because
It's fine.
It seems like Downey Jr. in this movie did portray an amazing amount of depth in the character, I thought. And as far as the Spider-Man thing, yeah, it does introduce him to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I kind of love that because it gave moments of brevity to this movie.
It did.
And so I love that in a superhero movie. I want those moments of brevity.
I agree. And this is... I think that Batman vs. Superman maybe didn't have enough action. I still enjoyed it. I think that the amount of action...
Because your mom was named Martha, motherfucker.
Why'd you say that name? I think that Batman vs. Superman maybe had a little light on action, but I think that Civil War had a little heavy on action. They could.
It was their action. If you were looking at this as a genre film, it was
an
their action
And if
movie.
they could have taken just a little bit out of that and added in more of the scenes where you actually got to feel for the characters, it would have made their choices maybe hold ground a little more.
Gotcha.
Personal.
Bailey.
Just not the introduction of Spider-Man, but the way he was introduced. That's it. I just think I could have handled a little bit differently.
Yeah, that scene in Queens.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. A little smoother
All right.
there.
Scott.
Happen.
I would say I like Zemo. I think he did well. I don't think everything needs to be tied back to Sokovia.
Okay.
I wish there would be a little bit more. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on. Why not make him something from another back point? Why not make him from a different battle? They've showed all these battles. Not everything has to be Sokovia related.
I can see that.
I also wish that in some way, shape, or form, because it was the end of the Cap trilogy and maybe the last Captain America movie, Red Skull had to come back somehow, and I wish he would have come back.
Right.
I don't know how you do it. I'm not a writer.
I do wish that Hugo Weaving would have made an appearance in this movie.
Am I the only one that's waiting for Zemo to break his tooth off?
All right, we're going to go into box office predictions. This movie's already made it's at $750 million worldwide. It's already made more than BVS has in the foreign markets. It has been out.
As opposed to BVS.
It's been out, and it's already hedging on Deadpool for the overall best superhero movie of the year. I'm looking at the box office numbers. Thank you, Scott, for that. But where is this movie going to end up? It's currently right now ranked as number 9 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, that's going to pop up
After a week and a half.
After a week and a half.
Well, 2 if you count the international market.
Scott has a Samsung, and when you click on links, it just gives you a zoomed-in version of the link.
Well, yeah, to
where's
answer
it
your
gonna end up
question,
in
where's
the
it going to end
box
up? Easy estimates have it coming in like somewhere at like the 1.3, 1.4 billion mark. The way it's performed overseas kind of makes me think that's a little on the low end, because if we've seen one thing, that if an overseas market gets on a film, it stays on that film for quite some time. It's kind of the reason why Star Wars didn't quite get to the Avatar numbers, because the international market loved it but didn't quite go crazy over it. Marvel has always done really well overseas, and this movie seems to be crushing it overseas. I think the drop-off the second weekend is going to be very minimal. I think it breaks 100 million again. I honestly do, because the positive word of mouth. I think we end up with a like 1.6, 1.7 billion dollar movie here, personally.
Okay,
I'm not a mathematician.
just because I can actually work my phone. Currently, it's at 737 million worldwide. It is about less than 30 million below Deadpool. It will cross Deadpool before the weekend.
Yeah.
Jungle Book's next, followed by BVS, which is at about 868 million. So if it has 2 good weekends, averaging about 70 million, it will pass up BVS within 2 weeks. And Zootopia is top for the year right now with almost $1 billion, which Disney's loving that. So I agree with you. I think it's going to cross the billion mark here probably in the next week to 2 weeks.
What's the highest grossing Marvel?
Highest grossing Marvel movie
That'd
has
be
been
the first Avengers.
and that is
1.9.
1.9.
Yeah,
and it was
1.8,
650 million domestic, so I don't think it's going to touch that.
Here's the thing, just to go off of the other single movie that's
Solo
in the top,
movie?
is
Yeah.
Iron Man 3,
would be,
which right now this is performing $10 million better than Iron Man 3 did when it came out. It's also
Incredible.
performing about close to $20 million better than BVS after its 5 days.
Pretty incredible stuff. So now let's move on to kind of our last wrap-up section. And because I love Disney and I love Marvel being in Disney, this section I'm calling Infinity Wars. and beyond. So
As the
I
siren
want
sound.
We're going to hell.
I want one prediction of where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to go. I want it to be rapid fire. You have less than 30 seconds apiece. And Scott seems very excited about this. I'm going to let him go. Your 30 seconds, sir.
We know that the Underground Avengers, New Avengers are in Wakanda. We also know that the lead-up movie to Infinity War will be Black Panther. It will be 2018 February. The next movie after that is Infinity War 1, or Infinity War, which is where I think you're going to get what you want. You're going to get a little bit of Black Panther, because I'm sure Cap and everybody else will make a cameo in there now since they're all hanging out in Wakanda. And I think shit's going to hit the fan in Black Panther moving into Infinity War. I also think that this sets us up perfectly for Ragnarok, because we're going to go cosmic now, first with Doc Strange and then with Thor, and obviously Guardians of the Galaxy in there too. So Phase 3 is very much going to go out to space, and I think without a doubt that the Avengers, either in Infinity War 1 or Infinity War 2, whatever they're going to name it, we're not going to end up on Earth at the very end.
I don't know if you guys ever watched a presidential debate, but those candidates do not know what 30 seconds means. Scott the politician does not know what 30 seconds means.
That was close.
And that was also like 9 predictions. But Bailey, 30 seconds, 1 prediction, go.
Tony Stark knocks up Sharon Carter and everybody gets a suit.
Yeah!
Nate.
I think that in the end, Captain America's going to die. I think Bucky's going to somehow deal with his brainwashing by using Tony Stark's magic glasses that we never touched on.
Yeah, that's a
And I
good
think he's going to deal with that somehow. I think Cap has to die. Everybody's waiting for it. Everybody's expecting in this movie it's going to happen, and then Bucky's going to take the mantle of Captain America.
Nice.
That's good. I think that we're going to get little sprinklings of this Underground Avengers and all the rest of the Phase 3 movies here. I think you're going to hear like about little things that happen, little crimes that get stopped and everything. Warehouses broken into, whatever. But I think, Infinity War 1 is going to be the setup to this of, oh crap, like I think it's Thanos getting the stones, and then I think Avengers Infinity War 2 is going to be gathering them together to fight him. And I kind of agree with Nate. I think a lot of death is happening in that movie.
They'll be
And
called
I think-
Avengers. Shit hits the fan.
Yes.
I think my Marvel loves Miss Gamora, Star-Lord, Drax,
Yeah.
Rocket Raccoon, and Groot. They're all heading for a big bad meeting with Thanos in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 next year. I think it's going to be awesome. I think that's going to tie into Infinity War. And then my prediction beyond the Infinity War is that Phase 4 for Marvel is going to be Fantastic Phase 4, because they are going to get Fantastic Four
already
back
got 'em.
from Fox.
Fantastic, yeah.
So
I'm going to put it down right now. It hasn't been announced. They've got them. When they pulled in Humans, they got either X-Men or Fantastic Four, and Fantastic Four is cheaper.
And there are a lot of rumblings that there's a big announcement coming at Comic-Con this year from Marvel. So
guys, thank you for hanging out with us for this last, I don't know, hour and a half, whatever we went. But obviously, we really enjoyed this movie. We hope that you go out and see it a couple of times. The next Marvel Cinematic movie we're going to be talking about is going to be Doctor Strange. So that'll be a completely different kind of feeling in November. We've got a lot of content that we're going to be bringing to you. Special thank you to our special guest, Jeremy Bailey, Lincoln Legends Podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
I think he might, might be on some future episodes of Front Row Movie
so.
Reviews
As long
as
as we
well.
don't get flooded
It
out.
just stinks because I love to listen to them, and I'm not saying I don't want to be a part of them, but I'm just a big fan, and I can't listen to myself talk
I get
because
that.
that's
I get that.
Oh, I
I
appreciate
get that.
that. Yeah.
But if you want to get a hold of the show, Jeremy, give us the plug. Since I'm the host this
That's
time.
right, you are. You can email us at thefrontrowmoviereviews@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram by searching for the Front Row Movie Reviews, or on Facebook, our main medium, until I finally get the damn website
Hit
done.
the button!
You can search on Facebook for the Front Row Movie Reviews, or you can follow us on Twitter at Front Row Reviews with a Z, hashtag bring back the Z.
Everyone on Facebook, tell Jeremy to hit the damn button on the website. It's ready to go.
Hashtag
Hit the
damn
button.
button.
Hashtag. You know what's funny about our Instagram, because I run that, we have never, or our Twitter, we've never done hashtag bring back the Z as an actual hashtag.
Well, we're going to have to do that.
All right.
We'll do it
we
tonight.
might have to do that. But thank you so much for listening to the Front Row Movie Reviews. Thank you to Killen's Comics for being our sponsor.
Yes.
We love them so. And look forward to a lot of things coming out that aren't just superhero related in the near future.
Someday.
With that, we'll go around the room. My name is Craig McFarland.
I'm Jeremy Gackner.
I'm a jackass.
I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm Jeremy Bailey. I don't know what to do with my hands.
I'm Scott McFarlane.
I again am Craig McClellan. I forgot going around the room.
That's worse than the one I did on news, man.
That was pretty bad. But we will see you in the front row.
Yes.
Make mine Marvel.
Excelsior!